Lee Van Cleef, born Clarence Leroy. Van Cleef Jr. on January 9, 1925, in Somerville, New Jersey, grew up during the Great Depression, a time that forged his grit and determination. Before Hollywood ever knew his name, Van Cleef served bravely in the U.S. Navy during World War II as a sonar man aboard a minesweeper, an experience that reflected the courage and discipline later seen in his film characters. After the war, he tried his hand at accounting and painting, but the lure of the stage was irresistible. His acting journey began in theater, where his intense presence and sharp features made an immediate impact. His film debut came in High Noon, 1952, where he played a silent gunman hunting down Gary Cooper's marshal, a role with no lines but unforgettable presence. Those piercing eyes and chiseled features soon became Hollywood's symbol of the quintessential villain. Throughout the 1950s, he was cast as the ruthless outlaw or cold-hearted henchman in westerns like The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, The Tin Star, and The Bravados. Yet, his career almost ended after a devastating car accident in the early 60s left him in pain and struggling for roles. Then fate intervened. In 1965, Italian director Sergio Leone cast him opposite Clint Eastwood in For a Few Dollars More, transforming him from forgotten Hollywood heavy to international star. Van Cleef's portrayal of the dignified bounty hunter Colonel Mortimer revealed a depth and subtle humanity no one expected. A year later, he became Angel Eyes in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, his icy stare and calm menace redefining what it meant to play the villain. By the 1970s, he was one of Europe's most bankable stars, headlining hits like Death Rides a Horse, Day of Anger, and Sabata. Off-screen. Van Cleef was a private, reflective man, quiet, gentle, and loyal to family and friends. He loved painting, sailing, and the peace of his California ranch. His personal life had its storms, 3 marriages, health struggles, and the loneliness that often accompanies fame. But he faced it all with quiet dignity. His third wife, Barbara Havalone, brought him peace and companionship until his death in 1989. Despite heart problems and throat cancer, Van Cleef continued acting through the 1980s, appearing in Escape from New York and the TV series The Master, which introduced him to a new generation of fans. In one of his last interviews, Van Cleef reflected on the 7 actors he respected most, not just for their talent, but for their honesty and professionalism. First was Clint Eastwood, the man who helped redefine his career. "Clint has a quiet strength you can't fake," he said. "He showed me that silence can speak volumes, and, in a Western, that's gold." He next named Henry Fonda, whom he admired for his moral presence and understated power. "Fonda made you believe every word," Van Cleef said. "True acting isn't about shouting louder. It's about honesty." Then came Gary Cooper, whom he called the master of the Western soul. Cooper's stillness, he said, carried all the courage and loneliness of the frontier. He also admired Charles Bronson for his toughness and humility. "We both earned respect the hard way." Of his good, bad and ugly co-star Eli Wallach, he said, "Eli could outthink anyone. He lived every character he played." Van Cleef also mentioned John Wayne, saying, "The Duke carried the West in his stride. He never pretended to be anyone but himself." Lastly, he honored Yul Brynner for his unique blend of elegance and danger. "He made the cowboy look like a king." Reflecting on these 7 men, Van Cleef summed it up perfectly. "What I respect most in an actor is truth. Doesn't matter if you're the hero or the villain. If people believe you, you've done your job." Those words revealed not only what he admired in others, but the very essence of who he was. When Lee Van Cleef passed away on December 16, 1989, at the age of 64, Hollywood lost one of its most unforgettable faces. Yet his legacy still endures, in the cold glint of his eyes, the silence that spoke louder than words, and the authenticity that made every frame feel real. He wasn't just the bad guy. He was a craftsman of truth, a man who turned stillness into power, and an icon whose legacy continues to cast a long, proud shadow across the cinematic West.